What if the only skills you had to rely on were the ones your great-great-grandparents used to survive? Fascinating thought, isn't it? But more than that, it's a reality that many of us may face sooner than we think. In a world increasingly defined by uncertainty, our reliance on modern conveniences could be our downfall. This isn't about scare tactics or doomsday prophecies. It's about understanding the fundamental truth that our ancestors knew well. Survival isn't about the gadgets you have, but the skills you possess and the knowledge you carry. They lived in a world devoid of electricity, supermarkets, or modern medicine, yet they thrived because they understood the land, the seasons, and the rhythms of nature. Today we're going to delve into the heart of old-world survival skills, those gritty, practical strategies that kept entire generations alive and kicking. We'll explore how early homesteaders lit their homes, cooked meals, stored food, and stayed warm in the dead of winter without ever flipping a switch. We'll discover the art of self-sufficiency, the way our forebears survived off the bounty of the land, preserving meat and produce without fridges, navigating the landscape without GPS, and bartering goods and services without a credit card in sight. We'll delve into the world of natural medicine, where every plant has a purpose and every herb a healing property. And we'll look at how they built durable, weatherproof homes with nothing but hand tools and natural materials, harvesting and purifying water without modern plumbing. The world of our ancestors was raw, brutal, and often unforgiving, yet they survived, not in spite of these challenges, but because of them. Their wisdom, their skills, their resilience is a roadmap for us today, a blueprint for survival in an uncertain future. In this video, I'm going to show you the gritty, practical strategies that kept entire generations alive without electricity, supermarkets, or modern medicine, and how you can bring those skills into your prepping plan today. Our ancestors didn't go off-grid, they were born off-grid. Picture this: a world without electricity, gas, or modern conveniences. Sounds daunting, right? But this was the reality for our forebears, and they didn't just survive, they thrived. How did they do it? Simple, they used what they had, innovated with what they found, and learned to adapt to their environment. They didn't have the luxury of flipping a switch to light their homes or adjust the thermostat for comfort. Instead, they mastered the art of resourcefulness and resilience. Imagine a time when people lit their homes using tallow candles, oil lamps, or even rushlights. These were not merely historical curiosities, but essential tools for everyday living. And despite the absence of modern-day stoves, meals were still cooked, often over open fires or in hearth ovens. Food storage, they had that covered too. Without refrigeration, our ancestors found ways to store food and prevent spoilage. They smoked meats, pickled vegetables, and even buried root crops in the earth to keep them fresh through the winter. And speaking of winter, let's not forget about heating. Central heating was a dream yet to be realized, but people stayed warm nonetheless. They used fireplaces, of course, but also ingenious contraptions like bed warmers and foot stoves. They layered clothing, used heavy blankets, and designed their homes to retain heat. All these methods might seem archaic now, but they are tried and true. They were born out of necessity, honed over centuries, and passed down through generations. And the best part? They still work. In the following scenes, we'll delve deeper into these old-world survival methods. We'll cover real alternatives to electricity and gas that still work, like tallow candles, rocket stoves, and root cellars. We'll explore the ingenious solutions our ancestors devised to meet their needs and how these strategies can be adapted for our use today. Remember, our ancestors didn't survive despite their lack of modern conveniences. They survived because of their resourcefulness, resilience, and reliance on proven, practical solutions. And there's no reason we can't do the same. Forget freeze-dried meals and MREs, people survived off their land. Old-world farming was a matter of life and death. Without a supermarket around the corner, families sustained themselves with what they could cultivate from the soil. Heirloom gardening was the order of the day, where each seed held the promise of a future harvest. These seeds, carefully preserved from the best of each season's produce, were a family's insurance against lean times. Let's dive into heirloom gardening. This isn't about growing picture-perfect tomatoes or creating a luscious green lawn. It's about growing food. Real, nourishing, life-sustaining food. Heirloom gardening means planting seeds that have been passed down through generations. These seeds haven't been manipulated or hybridized. They're as pure and natural as seeds come, offering the same nutritional value and flavor that our ancestors enjoyed. Seed saving was, and still is, an integral part of this process. By selecting seeds from the strongest and most productive plants, our forebears ensured that each new generation of crops was better adapted to local conditions. This is a practice that we can and should incorporate into our own gardening routines. But it wasn't just about planting a seed and hoping for the best. Our ancestors understood the importance of companion planting, growing certain plants together for mutual benefit. For example, the Native American Three Sisters planting of corn, beans, and squash. The corn provides a natural pole for the beans to climb, the beans fix nitrogen in the soil for the corn and squash, and the squash leaves act as a living mulch, preventing weeds and conserving water. Now, let's think about seasons. Modern agriculture has somewhat blurred the lines of what grows when, but our ancestors didn't have that luxury. They had to keep food growing year-round. This meant understanding the cycles of the sun, the patterns of the weather, and the rhythm of the earth. It meant planting frost-hardy greens in the cool months, heat-loving tomatoes in the height of summer, and root vegetables for the fall. Finally, once the harvest was brought in, it was time for preservation. See how they preserved meat and produce without fridges using smoking, curing, fermenting, and underground storage. Smoking and curing were common methods for preserving meat and fish. The smoke not only added flavor but also created an environment where bacteria struggled to survive. Curing, often with salt, further extended the lifespan of these precious proteins. For produce, fermenting was a popular choice. This not only preserved fruits and vegetables but also enhanced their nutritional value by encouraging the growth of beneficial bacteria. And for those items that didn't take well to fermenting, there was always underground storage. Root cellars dug into the earth provided a cool, consistent environment where many foods could be stored for months at a time. These old-world ways of food self-sufficiency are not just relics of the past. They are tried-and-true methods that can ensure our survival in a world where the conveniences we take for granted may no longer be available. There were no credit cards in the 1700s, but people still thrived through barter systems and mutual aid. Picture this. A world without cash registers, internet banking, or even hard currency. Instead, communities operated on a simple principle. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. This is the essence of bartering, an economic system that predates any form of money. In this system, goods or services were directly exchanged for other goods or services. People traded what they had in surplus for what they lacked. A farmer might trade bushels of wheat for a blacksmith's tools, or a weaver might exchange a bolt of cloth for a potter's jars. But bartering wasn't just about goods. Skills were equally valuable, if not more so. A skilled craftsman, a knowledgeable healer, or a proficient hunter. These were the individuals who held considerable value within their communities. Their skills were their currency, and they never ran out of it. Bartering also fostered a sense of community and mutual aid. It was more than just an economic system. It was a social contract. People depended on each other for survival, and this interdependence strengthened social bonds and cultivated a sense of shared responsibility. Now you might be thinking, that's all well and good, but we're not living in the 1700s anymore. True, but consider this. In a post-collapse world, where traditional currency systems may fail, bartering could very well become the new norm again. So, what does this mean for you, the modern-day prepper? It means that it's time to think about what skills or items you possess that could hold value in a post-collapse world. Maybe you're a whiz at gardening, or you can knit a sweater like nobody's business, or perhaps you've mastered the art of making soap from scratch. These skills, mundane as they may seem now, could be your lifeline in a world without money. They could be your currency, your means to procure what you need. So, hone your skills, stock up on useful items, and remember, like blacksmithing, herbal knowledge, or even soap making, can become modern-day currency in a post-collapse world. Long before smartphones and satellites, people navigated using the stars, moss, animal trails, and terrain. Imagine yourself in a world without Google Maps or GPS. Instead, you look up into the night sky, a sea of twinkling stars, and you know exactly where you are and where you need to go. That's not science fiction, it's how our ancestors lived. They saw the North Star as a faithful guide, not just a pretty speck in the sky. And it wasn't just the stars, the moss on trees, animal tracks, and even the shape of the terrain. These were the signs that painted a map in their minds. But navigation is just part of the story. Communication, too, took on a whole different form. Without the convenience of instant messaging or even snail mail, people had to come up with ingenious ways to pass on information. Smoke signals, carrier pigeons, coded messages, these were the tools of old-world communication. And in times of resistance and upheaval, these methods were often the lifeline that connected isolated groups and spurred collective action. Now, this isn't just a charming history lesson. These skills, lost to most in our modern age, can be vital in a survival situation. Being able to find your way without tech or send a message across a distance can make the difference between safety and danger, between life and death. So, how do you learn these skills? It starts with observation. Pay attention to the world around you. Learn the patterns of the stars and the habits of the wildlife. Practice reading the signs that nature provides. Remember, our ancestors were not born with these skills. They learned them just as you can. And for communication, explore the methods used in the past. Learn Morse code, study how smoke signals work, or even try your hand at carrier pigeon training. It's not about becoming an expert overnight, but about building a foundation of knowledge that you can draw upon when needed. Learn how to use nature as your compass, communicate across distances without tech, and pass messages the way resistance fighters and villagers once did. Our ancestors didn't rush to pharmacies. They relied on plants and practical medical skills passed down for generations. The wisdom of the past can be a lifeline in the future, especially when it comes to natural medicine. Imagine a world where antibiotics are scarce or not available at all. Our forebears thrived in such conditions, using the earth's bounty to heal and cure. Powerful herbal remedies, still in use today, were their go-to pharmacy. Echinacea for immune support, willow bark for pain relief, and lavender for its calming effects are but a few examples of nature's panacea. But it's not about merely knowing these plants, it's about identifying them, understanding how to harvest them without causing harm to the plant or the ecosystem, and knowing how to prepare them for use. It's about recognizing the slender, purple-flowering stalk of echinacea from the sea of green in a meadow. It's about understanding that willow bark should be harvested in the spring when the sap is rising, and knowing how to dry and store it for future use. It's about learning the art of distillation to create soothing lavender oil. These skills, this knowledge, is not just for the history books, it's for us, for today, for a future that might not be as certain as we'd like. For those who prepare, it's an essential part of the toolkit. Why? Because having a working knowledge of natural medicine can be the difference between life and death in a post-collapse world. It can mean having the ability to treat a fever, soothe a wound, or calm a racing heart when conventional medicine is not an option. And beyond survival, it can also be a way to maintain health and wellness, to prevent illnesses before they strike, and to live in harmony with the earth as our ancestors did. So let's take a leaf out of their book. Let's explore powerful herbal remedies still in use today, how to identify and prepare them, and why every prepper should build a working knowledge of natural medicine. Because the earth has a lot to teach us, if only we're willing to learn. See how people built durable, weatherproof homes with nothing more than hand tools and natural materials? Our forebears were architects of survival. Without power tools or hardware stores, they created shelters that stood the test of time, using what they found in their environment. From the sod houses of the Great Plains to the stone cottages of Europe, they knew how to work with the land, not against it. But a shelter is more than just a roof over your head. It's a bastion against the elements, a place to gather, to rest, to live. It was designed to keep them warm in winter, cool in summer, and safe from storms. They leveraged what we now call passive design, utilizing the sun's warmth, the earth's insulation, and the wind's cooling effect to maintain a comfortable indoor climate. No HVAC required. Water, the essence of life, was another crucial aspect of survival that our ancestors had mastered. Without modern plumbing or water treatment plants, they had to be resourceful. They collected rainwater, dug wells, and found natural springs. They knew how to purify water using simple yet effective techniques, boiling, filtering through sand or charcoal, or even using the sun's UV rays in a process known as solar disinfection. And let's not forget about heat. Without gas or electricity, they turned to the resources at hand: wood, peat, or animal dung. They built efficient fireplaces and stoves that not only warmed their homes but also served for cooking. Some even designed their homes to capture and store heat during the day, releasing it slowly during the chilly nights. These are the lessons we can learn from the past. They remind us that we don't always need modern amenities to survive. Sometimes all we need is a keen understanding of the world around us, a willingness to adapt, and a dash of ingenuity. Now let's explore how old-world homes were designed for passive heating, natural cooling, and water collection. The world our ancestors lived in was brutal, raw, and often unforgiving, but they survived because they had the skills, the mindset, and the community. They were true survivors, living off the land, navigating by the stars, and treating ailments with the knowledge of the earth. In a world without modern conveniences, they thrived. They were self-sufficient, resourceful, and resilient. In today's world, we often forget these old-world skills. We rely on technology, supermarkets, and modern medicine. But what if all these conveniences were to suddenly disappear? Would we be able to survive as our ancestors did? The answer lies in understanding and mastering these old-world survival skills. By learning how to live without the grid, grow and preserve our own food, barter and navigate without technology, use natural medicine and build shelters, we can prepare ourselves for any uncertain future that may come our way. These old-world lessons aren't outdated. They're a blueprint for an uncertain future. The more we remember, the less we rely on systems that can fail. If this video gave you new ideas or reminded you of a skill you've been meaning to learn, hit that like button and subscribe for more survival wisdom. Share this knowledge. Let's keep these old-world skills alive. Engage with us. Tell us in the comments which skill you think is most crucial to revive. Remember, learning is the key to self-reliance. Thanks for watching. Stay sharp, stay self-reliant, and I'll see you in the next one.